way where they are not requested or wanted, except at meetings like this. Thank you, Glenn. But you guys would want to hear the kind of things I have to say.
Oh, you're not imposing, you're just explaining.
Exactly, exactly. But if this was a library group or a mahjong group, I would be imposing. And I'm not tempted to do that. So you have to decide on who your target should be, who you should broach a subject to. And there are specific ways of doing that. Talking about the corruption, talking about the pocketbook issues, what they are paying for that nobody should be asking them to pay for. How they feel about how much they have to spend on Obamacare and how much they have to save because nobody can afford the deductible and all like that. So there are ways you can broach the subject. Fourth, and to me this is the most important appeal that can be made. It is the most powerful appeal that can be made. A couple minutes ago I lied to you. I said that patriotism will have very little appeal at all. Well, it's partly a lie. If patriotism can't appeal for the two reasons I mentioned, what can appeal to the average man on the street or woman on the street, or high schooler for that matter, is pride, national pride. Is that something that means something to Americans? Yeah, ask the NFL. NFL, after this season, will let you know how much pride means to the average American. Just have a couple of NFL players take a knee to the flag and the national anthem, and they're losing millions and millions in advertising revenue. And people are turning their TV off. Have these bastard Hollywood celebrities and sports figures and entertainers badmouth this country the way they constantly do, and all of a sudden the Grammy Awards this year lose 20% of their audience. 20% over all of the Jane Fondas and Barbara Streisands and all of them. Yeah, okay. I had to bring it to earth. I had to make it concrete. It always works. So that shows you how much Americans hate the way the left denigrates this country and demeans this country. But the left don't think about what we have to be proud of. I did an entire essay on that subject in this pamphlet. Only in America, the goodness that greatness begot. It explains exactly what makes this so great a country. And it's not anything I've ever read anyplace else. I've developed my own arguments. And as far as the goodness, what I think makes this country great is ever since the Enlightenment, the triumph of reason. And reason translates into the triumph and the achievements of science, the application of reason to the study of the natural world. And what that leads to are millions of men and women who make the country work. The tinkerers, the mechanics, the engineers, the scientists who put the most abstract discoveries of science to use in every kind of device, invention that improves the quality of our lives. It's the constant improvement in the quality of daily life brought about by technology, which is the application of science. Science applied by individuals who have the freedom to create their own world, to create improvements, and to bring their inventions and discoveries to market and become millionaires and billionaires, not by corrupting government, but by offering something to every consumer in the country that makes life so much easier for us. That commitment, a commitment to the daily improvement of quality of life, and I go through the history of that in this little pamphlet. I'd recommend it highly. And the second thing, that is what made this country great. Have you all seen the Matt Damon commercial on TV where he follows this woman up a trail with a big pail on her shoulder?
Yes.
and he tells us that she has to walk 6 miles a day to get a pail of water. We don't have to walk 6 miles a day. Of course, we invented indoor plumbing and pipes and everything else that sends water up to 110 floors of some building and anything below that. Why isn't Matt Damon talking about the wonders of modern science and technology and the improvement in life? That's what that woman needs to find out about, not to get a couple of bucks from some suckers in America. Not suckers. Not suckers, I misspeak. The goodness that's in the heart of the American people. And the idea of justice, of giving someone in need the thing they deserve, if they deserve it. If Americans or anyone in the world is suffering through no fault of their own. The number of charities and philanthropies. I like to sum it up in one anecdote. Everyone in this room is old enough to remember the Labor Day Jerry Lewis Telethon.
Yeah, yeah.
Every year, people from every industry, from every walk of life, from every field of entertainment donated millions upon millions of dollars, their time, their talents and everything to collect money to help Jerry's kids. That's who Americans are.
Yeah.
Bob Hope did the same, not the telethons, but Bob Hope worked tirelessly his whole life.
Dimes.
Yeah, exactly.
50s.
Yep. Yep. And that's who we are, the number of charities, philanthropies, foundations that do wonderful work all year, all over the country, and this country is denigrated as mean and ruthless. Have you seen the, who's that moron?
Which one?
Yeah, which moron?
Don't bring me to choose.
There's so many to choose from.
No, Robert Reich.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You saw that
As,
video?
as Robert Silva calls him, Robert Reich.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
He did a short video damning Ayn Rand as being exemplar of the worst of this country.
No pun intended, short video.
Yeah.
He couldn't do any other kind, right? He was Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton, in fact. This guy rose to all heights. Without a law
I don't think
degree.
he's ever read any of Ayn Rand's.
None of her critics have.
Yeah.
Not one. There's no such thing as finding one of her critics who knows the first thing about her ideas. No one, never. And I've been looking for a lot of years.
He ran from the truth.
And this is who Americans are, and Americans need to be told of the goodness of this country and the goodness of the American people and the long history of that of expressing that goodness in concrete action. We have nothing on earth to be ashamed of. As a matter of fact, one of the subtitles, "A nation is as great as it is free. Prosperity is but the material expression of its greatness and its greatest practical reward." Americans, the freest, most prosperous people, became the most generous and caring people who ever peopled the planet.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows anything about this country understands that. Well, it's Ayn Rand said this. Ayn Rand's third virtue: 1, rationality; 2, productiveness; 3, pride. Before integrity, before independence, before justice, there was pride. Of course, you have to realize, as an individual, all the accomplishments you have chalked up were all made voluntarily. Nothing was given. You had to choose to live as you lived and do what you did. This country had to choose to live as it lived and to do what it did. But it's not good, it doesn't work, if you're not proud, if you don't acknowledge your own achievements. And it's something else, a horrible injustice. Justice is acknowledging the good things and the bad things you do. well, no one on earth has ever done more good than this country.
That's right, that's right.
And it's necessary to realize that, and Americans do. Not only did they express that by turning off the NFL season this year, but we're all in New York. Think of what happened right after 9/11. You couldn't look in any direction with your eyes open without seeing an American flag everywhere. That is what's inside the American people. That sense of pride and, so I aligned, that sense of patriotism. First thing that happened is the American flags came out. And if you think back to, you couldn't see a car go by without a flag on the antenna, or a flag on the porch in front of the business. So Americans feel that. The only problem is most people pay attention to the things that are closest to them in their daily lives. So we do what everyone does to some extent. We take our blessings for granted. And people love this country, they love the flag, they love everything about it, but in the routine of daily life, in the hustle bustle, and preparing the kids' meal before they go to school, and everything people do, they take their freedoms for granted until they can no longer take their freedoms for granted. That was the lesson of 9/11. The lesson of the football season is Americans love this country, they love their freedom, they will not give it up, they will not let it go. But it is only after the country or their freedoms have been threatened, directly threatened, and they feel the threat, that they wake up and say, oh no, not in my country you don't. And that's where their spirit of pride and their patriotism come out. I think our challenge is to appeal to the patriotism for the reasons I just said, and not let Americans forget how precious the blessings we enjoy are, and how they are being threatened. When it's not all that visible, unless like us, you pay attention. You know what's going on, and you know where it's leading. Well, our job, if we choose to accept it, is to teach these lessons to friends, to family, co-workers, golfing buddies, fishing buddies, bowling buddies, to find an in, to find an opportunity to broach the subject and to make these 4 specific appeals. I think if we do that, we can save the country. I gotta bring this talk to more of the country, but I'm going to try to do that. That'll be my job. I'm the wholesaler.
Thanks for bringing it to us.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to have Q&A now. I'd like to get started with you. If you don't mind, I'd like to start a couple quick things. First, you mentioned how Rand had put pride so high in the priorities for accomplishing what she thought was worthwhile.
I would not make too much of that.
But I made a correlation in my head.
Okay.
Am I correct that George Washington read The Art of War and used it as a guide for his military strategy?
I'm not aware of that.
I believe he did.
And if I was aware of that, I just forgot it.
Okay, but I believe he did. The Art of War, what is the Art of War? The 5,000-year-old, I think it is, strategy guide for military commanders. And one of the things the Art of War says is that the qualities, of all the qualities that a general has to have, the number one thing is courage. Everything else you might have, wisdom, intelligence, strategic, leadership, whatever, is meaningless without the courage to put it into place when the time comes. So I'm wondering if that's why she had pride so high in her priorities, because it helps make everything else possible, right? That's what I'm thinking.
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, the way I put it in the pamphlet, I never read anything by Rand that suggests that that was the reason. But what she does say about pride is that, oh, I do have it at my fingertips actually, but not by Rand. Well, the point is that national pride is to nations what self-esteem is to individuals. It is the thing that encourages one to improve even more, to be even better, because the feeling we have from taking a just and genuine pride in what we've achieved it's joyous. It's the feeling of our efficacy and of our sense of responsibility and self-discipline, the control we have to know that this is the good. And no matter how hard we have to work, I'm going to do the good. And what I feel from that, the reward of in pure pleasure you get from knowing you have that measure of self-control and that you didn't have to achieve what you achieved. You did it because of your commitment, because your self-discipline and all the other virtues you have to apply, and you deserve to be proud for that. Well, that's the motive fuel for continuing and achieving even more, because it is a good feeling to
Okay.
feel pride.
Right, and then I have two more quick ones, and then one last question. The quick ones are,
I'm not
tax
proud, I'll
cuts,
take it.
tax cuts will do more what you said. You're right, Americans are extraordinarily generous, and have more money in their pocket, they'll donate more to charity.
Exactly
One more
so.
advantage of tax cuts.
Exactly so.
And then another quick one is, you said Gerald Ford said, the government's strong enough to give you everything you want and strong enough to take everything you have. He may have said that in the debate, not denying that. Wasn't he quoting one of our founding fathers said that?
Since I wrote the book, everyone's been telling me that was Reagan.
I thought it was Thomas
Yeah,
Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. I've studied under one of the greatest Jefferson scholars in the history, the 20th century history, Saul Padover, and I put it to him, and he's never
I guess I was
able
wrong.
to attribute it.
My last
I
thing,
would love to know that. I can't believe it comes from Gerald Ford, or excuse me, Gerald Ford speechwriter.
great. And the last thing I like to,
There's a difference.
This is more involved. I'm all for the thing you're talking about. You appeal to the things that people feel that will help them vote your way. Patriotism, pocketbook, all for. But as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking to myself, the moment you bring up, you said broach the subject, with many people, they tune out. I'm not into politics. How do you get past that? That's my practical question.
I haven't gotten that far. No, Lawrence is right. He's exactly right. Americans are apathetic. Americans are complacent. Americans despise their political leaders. Congress is way lower in popularity than any recent president. That's the trick. As soon as somebody can come up with the answer to Lawrence's question, please write me. Yes, but you can experiment in different ways. I would say, whatever is another problem with Americans, they have an attention span of an ant. What's on the news last night, they remember until 11:30 the next
That
morning.
may be good though, when you look at this high school uprising of the kids now across the
God.
country.
The thing
Which is very
yesterday,
scary
the thing
if
yesterday
they-
in Washington.
If they continue to.
Okay,
throw
this
power
gentleman.
around.
I'm sorry, how you doing? My name is Joe Vidal. I just want to say that when it comes to politics, I feel like since everything is being politicized, it's not hard to actually bring someone to the attention of politics.
Yeah, but with an open mind,
Well,
that's a little harder.
I'll be honest, like, you're not gonna have anybody.
Strike up a conversation with
Exactly, that's why I keep my hat on, is because people are more honest, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I call it trigger, because it triggers actually the emotion that you actually feel. So
By
if
the
it's
way,
something true,
that is
you know?
excellent,
That's
absolutely.
why me and him were there yesterday at the March for Our Lives, and he has his Trump decorations on his yarmulke, and I have my hat. Did I say it right? Sorry.
How will you?
And he's still with
how will
us
you see-
today.
And there's 100,000 people against this, 170,000
Sure.
people against this, but not all 170,000 were against
Where
it.
were you
People
exactly?
came to
Where
us
were you exactly?
right there in Central Park South, right there by Columbus Circle. All of them saw us, and no matter, they kept saying it's only 2 of you here. I was like, yeah, yes, you know? And even with all of that, they still turned it into our direction, and they looked at us, and they wanted to speak to us, they wanted to know, why are you here? And then they don't realize that we also marching for lives, you know? So my thing is, the greatest way to reach out to these people that you think would never even understand you is, not to cater to them, but they like to hear, believe it or not, that the president's not always right. So when you say something to them in your own sense, it makes it seem like you're not a puppet, you have your own ideas, because we were talking about the drug dealer's death penalty. And in that same conversation came, should a pharmacist see the death penalty then? You know, or should these pharmacies see the pharmacist see the death penalty? Because they're the ones giving out the drugs that are probably giving these people more of an opioid overdose.
Mhm.
And then we kind of agreed. And then they kept saying to me, oh, we didn't agree just by me looking at your hat, but the moment we started speaking, we started to agree.
That you were open-minded too.
And
you
what
were
we
calm.
have to do, believe it or not, is imitate what the left does. They go out